Ageo goes live. I'm talking about one-on-one with Deputy President William Ruto. A politician many have lately been asking where he really stands on the just commenced BBI constitutional review process, from the meaning of yes and no to the interpretation of consensus. Let's now cross over to the Deputy President's current residence for that interview. He'll be speaking to Joe Ageo. Joe, the whole nation is eagerly awaiting this interview. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Wahiga Mwaura. Yes, indeed, we are here at a time when the signature collection for the BBI bill is drawing to a close. The Deputy President is calling for what he calls consensus, and tonight we're going to understand exactly what he means by that and what now. Welcome, Bwana DP, to our conversation. It's been a while.
Thank you very much, Joe, and welcome to the Deputy President's residence in Karen. Karibu.
Thank you very much. And we'll start at the deputy residence in Karen, where yesterday you had some leaders here. There were 146 or so, you said. And you made a raft of what you called proposals on this bill on which the signatures are being collected right now. Who were you directing those proposals to? Who do you hope will act on them?
Joe, let me first say that even as we discuss this big subject of BBI, we have a real situation in Kenya, which I'm sure we will have an opportunity to talk about.
Yes, definitely. We will talk about a lot of things.
The serious situation we have in our country. In fact, this evening I just got an information that Dr. Stephen Mugusu, who works in one of our isolation centers in one of our counties, is now in ICU at Komarok Hospital. He's not been paid for 4 months. He has a bill of 900,000, and people who are reaching out for help. This morning, a friend of mine called Dr. Karani Washira, a former member of parliament in Laikipia, called me because his wife and son were infected with corona. His wife unfortunately has passed away after 3 days, and he's lucky that he has he managed to pull through. So even as we discuss the subject that is at hand, we need to discuss it against the background of where the country is. But to answer your question, there is a BBI secretariat. There was a BBI team that was running this whole BBI exercise. And we've gone through these motions, you know. When Kenyans were raising issues, when I spoke, for example, in Bomas, when church leaders spoke, when Muslims spoke, pastoralists, the Catholic Church, and other stakeholders, the representatives of farmers and others, certainly the BBI Secretariat is listening.
So you are hoping they were listening to you yesterday? Is there any other sort of formal process going to them, taking those recommendations, or you're hoping they watched the press conference and they're going to act on it?
It is the case. The manner in which this process has been conducted, as you are aware, when we worked on the constitution that culminated in 2010, there was a law that provided that this exercise will go in this manner, these are the people responsible, and this is the process. Unfortunately for the exercise we are engaged in, there is no legal framework. So we have to work with what we have. And fortunately, there are people listening, and changes are being made, and Kenyans are witnessing that indeed some of the concerns that have been raised have been taken on board.
But to say that there was no legal framework, I mean, some people would say the president appointed a task force, which I would imagine is within his power to appoint.
Yeah.
and they brought recommendations, and right now they are collecting signatures, which is a requirement in the law under Article 255 about amending the Constitution.
Through a popular initiative. What
is outside the law in all these things that are going on?
I think there is need to be contextualized. You know, for example, Joe, the Supreme Court already made a decision that process is as good as the result. So we need to be careful on the process. What is the process we are following? Is this a popular initiative? And if it is a popular initiative, how is it being done? Or is it a parliamentary initiative? Because that is the provision of the Constitution, Section 255, the one you have mentioned.
So as you stand here tonight, you're saying that you have absolutely no idea what procedure this attempt to amend the Constitution is following. You cannot find it in the law.
Other people, we are all in this process. At some point, maybe it will become clear, but your guess is as good as mine.
Tonight I'm interested in your views because
we do not have a legal framework that is supporting this process, like the way the 2010-205 constitution making process was undertaken. But that is neither here nor there. What is important now is that we are in this process, right? And let me tell you, Joe, I know there is a lot of push that, you know, the train has left the station. It's too late. Where were you? It's been 2 years, you know?
That's a legitimate question because you have been around.
And I did say yesterday, it is never too late to do the right thing. On the merit of what we are saying, and it applies the same. When I spoke in Bomas, when other stakeholders spoke subsequent to Bomas, there was the same argument. Why are you speaking now? Why is the church speaking now? Why is this group speaking now? But because of the weight and the seriousness of what everybody was saying, reason prevailed, and the promoters of BBI took on board what Kenyans said, including what some of us said, including what the church said, including what other stakeholders said. And I think in this country, it is important for us to listen to one another. And that is why I have said, and I have been consistent, and up to now, I still believe that we shouldn't have a win-lose. We should have a win-win.
I appreciate that, and
it is possible.
And we will define that.
And through consensus, we should be able to get
ourselves
there.
And we'll define that in a moment. But what I'm trying to get at, tonight you're saying this process is essentially illegal. You're saying that you want consensus, and you're not going to go to the BBI Secretariat where they have been collecting signatures and doing all of these things. And you're still telling us you're not saying no in this referendum?
You see, the words, what you have said are your words. They are not my words. Yeah, I'm very careful on what I say because I hold myself to account for everything I say. I have told you that this is a constitution-making process. The constitution is not about the people promoting. The constitution is about every Kenyan, myself included. As a patriot, if the Constitution of Kenya is being amended, and I said in Bomas, I do not have the luxury to stand aside and say, since I am not a promoter of this exercise, I do not want to do anything about it. Because if I don't do anything about it, we will end up with a document, and if the wrong thing happens, what happened to that gentleman in Germany's Hitler's Nazi movement, where there was Martin Niemöller. Martin Nimla was a Lutheran priest. And he said the following, finally, because he ended up in a detention camp. So Martin said, when they came for the socialist, I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. When they came for the trade unionist, I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Finally, when they came for me, there was nobody to speak. What I'm saying is the following. I am here. I am a Kenyan. Something is happening to the Constitution, and it is my duty. I do not want to say, I do not want history to judge me that William Ruto was there. He was the deputy president. He knew something that was not right was happening. He didn't say it. He had good ideas on how we could end up with a better document. He was selfish. He did not step out to say, I think this document can be made better this way.
But Wanadipi, who would believe you when you say that, when in fact on the 10th of August when we spoke here, you told me that, I hear they are doing something, do you know what they are doing? You said a few weeks after that, when you were meeting some MCAs in Sugoi, you said that you hear that they are doing something. Wacha watengeneze huko hiyo katiba, watatuambia ni nini wanatengeneza. That doesn't sound like someone who is invested in this process, who wants to make it better.
Let me tell you,
you
Joe,
sound like a bystander who is coming to derail the process.
There is a history to that. For your information, Joe, you had my boss, the president, say in Bomas that I participated in the appointment or in the nomination of the people who eventually became part of the BBI committee, which is the truth. But when we were nominating those people, changing the constitution was not part of their brief. And it was very clear. It was not part of their brief. That's why, if you look at the nominations that came from the Jubilee side, we are actually nominating people whose brief was to bring people together, generally peace meetings. That's why we nominated the chairman of the Kisii Council of Elders. We nominated the chairman of the Kalenjin Council of Elders. We nominated Leshomo, who I have been on peace caravans with her in Samburu. That was the frame. It was not about the constitution. But with that as it may, when this exercise was concretized into a constitution, then it was necessary for us to step in and say, okay, let's look at what proposals are being made, right? And you agree with me, Joe, that some of the interventions that we have made were not unreasonable. That's why today the issues on IEBC and appointing IEBC and appointing politicians or political parties appointing people into IEBC had been dropped because it would compromise the independence of the IEBC. The same thing with the Police Service Commission, that if we introduced ministers and politicians to run the police, it would undermine the independence of the police and it would take us back from where we came from. Same thing to matters to do with judiciary. Same thing to the matters to do with Senate. Meaning that the people who are promoting, the promoters of BBI are also intelligent and reasonable people. They are listening to reason. And the rest of us and every Kenyan who believe they have an input to make this process, because once it becomes a matter about the constitution, you would be very unpatriotic if you have good ideas and you didn't want to contribute.
So did the president lie to you when you were appointing these people, or did he renege on the promise? Have you asked him why these people ended up changing the constitution, yet you contributed to naming people to that committee?
Joe, I think it's only fair not to use very harsh words. I don't think the president of Kenya can lie to anybody. No, right?
Just help me understand. Maybe maybe there are people.
You never know. Maybe as the thing went, it evolved. And maybe other issues came up, and it became necessary for them.
And you were not told
to recommend constitutional changes.
Any
And you
average
see,
person.
for a long time, this process was largely between the president and the former prime minister. And I think the people in the former prime minister's corner were uncomfortable with my participation. And I didn't mind, allowing the process. In fact, I had made a comment that I would maybe concentrate on running the Jubilee agenda, right? Once this is formalized and we have a final position, the rest of us would come, make whatever contributions we have, and then take the process forward.
But when DP, why I keep going back to this is as follows.
Yeah.
You're saying that this process, one, is outside the law.
Those are your words.
No, you actually said
mine.
that there's no legal framework. In English, that really just means it is outside the law.
There is no legal framework, but that does not mean it is illegal.
No, legal framework means it's happening within the context of the law, isn't it? That is what
I'm telling you. There is no legal framework guiding this process the way we had a legal framework when we were doing the CKRC law, for example.
So you nominated people with that in mind, but be that as it may, the president, because he has been promoting BBI, so for some reason the president went ahead with a process that changed the agenda of what you had agreed, the two of you. And you're telling me that it is not reasonable for someone to conclude that either the president did not honor what you had agreed, or somehow he lost the control of that process to some other people.
Well, maybe if you find the president, maybe you can ask him that question. But I've told you from where I sit.
I imagine he's
from where I sit. The original agreement was that there was no constitutional changes. But along the way, things can happen. Along the way, maybe after the peace meetings and whatever it is that they got along the way, it became necessary to make recommendations on changes to the constitution. And I have absolutely no problem with that, because we are here. This is our country. And I have said, out of patriotism and the fact that this is now a process that is going to change our constitution, and because the president of Kenya, who is my boss, is involved in this process, it is my duty to make sure that I make my contribution to make this process now as good as it can get, and to ensure that it eventually succeeds and we manage to bring about a better outcome in the best way possible. And that is why I have gone out of my way.
We need to take a break
to make my contribution. And I have all the way insisted that we must not make this process a divisive process.
All right, thank you. We are taking a short break here. We are speaking to the Deputy President on the BBI process, what's really going on, and he's explaining his side of the story, as it were. We'll be back after a short while with the second part of our interview.